Hey everybody, you're watching Cole the Corn Star. Good morning everybody, welcome to the farm. It is a cold, windy day today, so for today's project, we are going to be working on the farmhouse in the new underground movie theater. We are going to be getting all of this ready to be backfilled. So we are going to be jumping inside of our little heated tent. Inside our little enclosure, we are currently running a couple tube heaters right now to keep this area nice and warm because we just got done applying our fourth layer of waterproofing membrane on the walls. So we've been trying to make sure that this will cure so that way we can get ready for the step that we are going to be doing today. Before we get started, just a little context. 10 years ago, I started cleaning up my grandpa's farm. And let's just say that there was a lot of stuff here. Fast forward 10 years later, I got the outside completely cleaned up, and then I decided I was going to tear apart the farmhouse and do a 100% restoration. So over the last year, with the help of my friend Roman and my neighbor Justin, we started gutting everything in the entire house and then started rebuilding everything from the ground up. Long story short, I also decided to build an underground movie theater edition, which brings us to today. The underground movie theater is positioned 12 feet below ground, which means that we battle groundwater. In an effort to beat the groundwater and ensure that we have a dry underground movie theater, we have been trying to take every step that we can. So before we poured the concrete, we actually dug 5 drain lines 3 feet beneath my feet. And then once we poured our concrete footings, we installed an exterior perimeter drain tile right here. And then on the other side of the wall, we did the same thing, but this time on the inside. So we have 3 drain lines to get rid of the bulk of the water. And then to keep our wall dry, we installed 4 coats of liquid rubber waterproofing membrane. Technically speaking, the underground movie theater is now 100% waterproofed, but 100% isn't quite enough for me. I want to make sure it's 200% ready, which is why today we are going to be installing this dimple board on the outside of our liquid rubber membrane, so that way we have a true belt and suspenders approach to our waterproofing to fully ensure we are not going to have a wet underground movie theater. The way the dimple board works is pretty simple. We just have all of these half-inch dimples that stick out of this roll. So we'll unroll it on the wall. It's just a nice thin layer. And then when it's against the wall, we will have little air gaps between all of the dimples. So if water were to get on the backside of this dimple board somehow, we basically have a big drainage field because of these dimples. So that water will be able to run between the dimple board and our waterproofing membrane, and it will run all the way to the bottom, and then we will have the dimple board drape over the top of our footing, over the top of our perimeter French drain. So that way if water gets back there, it will just run down underneath, and then it will fall into our French drain, and then the French drain will take it away. Just a disclaimer, we're not professionals, we're learning as we go. This is actually the first basement that we have ever built, and this is the first time that we have ever waterproofed a basement before, so we're literally learning from YouTube and online forums. So that being said, ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's start getting this stuff installed. Robin, Dusty in here.
That means I'm doing a good job.
Step number 1, we are going to need just a little bit of rock. Our dimple board is 8 feet tall, and we're gonna have 2 feet of it over the top of our footing. So we're gonna make a mark 6 feet up on the wall, and we're gonna take a chalk line, we're We're gonna chalk line it so then we know where we need to line up the top of our dimple board, so that way we keep everything nice and straight all the way throughout our entire wall. We are going to be starting in the back corner and then working our way going this way. The YouTube video that we watched said 2 guys can do a house in about an hour. I don't think we're gonna be doing that, so our goal is for 3 guys to be able to do it in about a day. So we'll see how we make out. In order for us to mount the dimple board to the wall, we have to use some concrete nails, and to install the concrete nails is pretty cool. We have this special tool where you have, it's literally this little like gunpowder charge, and you put it in this nail shooter and then it shoots it right into the concrete. Whoa! One last little gathering of tools. I'm going to grab my tool belt so then I don't have to keep bending over into a box to pick up all the little charges as well as the fasteners or the nails.
Surgeon said no twisting.
Don't twist.
I'm not supposed to twist.
Just turn.
The YouTube video that said that 2 guys could do a whole house in about an hour was wrong. We knew it was going to be wrong, but it's actually not terribly far off. This is the first time we've ever done this, and we're about 2 hours in, and we're about 2/3 of the way done. 2 hours in, how do you feel, Roman?
Cold. It got so much colder. I need the coat. I need different gloves. Justin is irritating me. I'm quitting.
What'd you do to Roman?
He's a wuss. He's cold. Hims is cold. Cut off! I hate you!
All in all, this side's turning out really good. We got everything nice and straight. It's tight to the wall. This side doesn't look terrible, or maybe not as tight as we could be in some of these areas, but it's really not going to be a problem at all as long as our top is nice and taut. But when we get down here to the bump out, things start to look a little bit more ugly. Remember, this is the first time we've ever done this. Doing this, what we've done now, we would definitely do it a little bit differently next time, but we're still gonna make this be able to work. I wouldn't really say we made that big of a mistake right here. Maybe just a little bit extra work for ourselves. We don't have our caulking gun to be able to caulk our seams together, so that's why we're leaving everything open right now, so it actually looks way uglier than it actually is going to be. These are going to tuck around kind of like this. If I can do this with one hand, but it'll look something like this. Obviously, we'll get all the slack and stuff out of here, and then we'll end up pinning all of this down with these, just like we have everywhere else. And then we also need to get all the ones in between yet. But we may just have a little bit more work with the caulking and putting our seams and getting everything lined up, especially on the bottoms. So that's really the biggest mistakes I would say that we've made. Otherwise, it actually seems like it's going pretty smooth.
Little update on the project. Justin and I are gonna start finishing our rod job that he got started over here, and we already done on another side because I was going around and trimming our dimple board so it could fit right under our felt, and that's for the soil that wouldn't infiltrate into the place where all this water would shed. So therefore, this installation would take years and years, or maybe decades, or maybe 100 years before it silts in with dirt, and it would no longer be able to shed the water down into our drain that's buried right in here. So this job is done, and now we're gonna grab buckets, shovels, and carry some rock in.
After a good day worth of work between Justin, Roman, and I, we got the dimple board on all the way around. We got all of our fasteners on all of the areas besides at our joints. Once we get the caulking tomorrow, we will be able to finish up the joints. So we have the joints just sitting wide open right now, but we got this side done. Let's take a look at this. This is absolutely beautiful. This side's completely done. It's kind of satisfying looking at our W pattern with all of our nails. We're coming up on a seam right here where we need some caulking. So that's why that's all sitting open. We'll get this caulked up behind here. We'll get everything pushed in nice and flat, and then we'll take these fasteners, and then we'll go down every 12 inches all the way down to the bottom. And this side does not have a seam on it, so this one's pretty seamless and easy to put together. Definitely our easiest side. Also our coldest side, because we can look right outside. And then we got this side done. We're getting into the really ugly area here in a second with the bump out, because we have a lot of seams on this one. Got a seam there, got a seam right here, got a seam, got another seam, and then we have another seam here, and we made a little mistake right here, so we accidentally have a seam right there. Not the end of the world, just a few more nails to put into the wall. And then we made it all the way down to the corner over there. After putting about 250 nails through our ram set tool, I'm running into a little bit of a problem. The way that this thing is supposed to work is once you fire your nail out of this end, you can just pull on this part, and then it opens up the area where you put in your charge, and then the charge is supposed to auto eject out of there. But as we can see, this one has been fired off. You can see the little dimple in the bottom of the charge there, and it's still stuck in there. So I have a feeling that our ejector up inside of there is dirty, and it's not letting things eject out the way that they're supposed to. So I'm gonna try to see if I can pull this apart and maybe get in there and clean it, and then hopefully we can get that to work again. I honestly have no idea how this comes apart. I tried looking up some YouTube videos to see if other people have done it, but nobody has this particular model. So we're just gonna try to start cranking on things and see if we can get anything to move. I think that this collar is what's holding everything in when it comes to the barrel, but it feels super tight. So we're gonna crank on a little bit and put some gloves on, see if we can get some leverage here. That doesn't feel right. That's gotta be it though. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? Is it like a lock for a air compressor chuck? Nope. I'm pretty sure I figured out what is going on. So these are the shots that we are running, and they have a little paint tip on the end, so we know what level of charge we are using. So in this case, we are using the yellow ones, which are a level 4. When we put it inside of there, and we actually shoot it off, the end product is this. Where did all the yellow go? Well, it can only go one place. It's not going out the end. It's getting stuck up inside of there. So I think after 250 of these things, we basically just have a big old yellow, painty, sticky mess inside of here. I was able to take one of these torch tip cleaners, and I can stick it up inside, and I can feel some hard stuff. And I can get some pieces to fall out like that one right there. And that is a yellow piece that I think is from the charge. So I still don't know how to get this apart, but maybe we can do a little bit of scraping around with this, enough to where we'll actually be able to get our last 50 shots to be able to eject out of here. I gave up on trying to tear apart the nail shooter last night, so we're just gonna brute force the rest of this. Justin and Roman beat me here this morning. They got our covering taken off on this side. Just look how absolutely beautiful this looks. Phenomenal job, guys. Good job, Justin.
Thank you.
Roman's been really busy this morning as well. We have our caulking out and he got our joints already started. And then he started nailing them in and sealing things down. It looks a little sloppy on the outside, but he put a really nice thick bead of the caulking in here. And then he nailed it to the wall. So it is sealed really tight. He's got all these joints done. Looks super good. If I'm not mistaken, he is working his way to the very last one, all the way on the end. How do you feel, Roman?
Starts being a little chilly. It's not very physically exerting job, so you don't stay warm because you're moving. So I have my heater. I need to move it here.
There we go, Roman. It's much better. Justin and Roman have been getting a lot done this morning, and the reason why they beat me out here by a couple hours was because I was taking care of some office work, and it is just about lunchtime now, and my dad is tied up. A trucker is going to be pulling in any minute to get a load of soybeans, or maybe they're gonna do corn. I'm not sure. One of the two, corn or soybeans. They're both over there, but he is going to be loading them up, so I'm the only one free right now to go get lunch, so I'm going to run into town. I'm gonna pick up some food, and then we are going to get our tarp pulled off, and hopefully we're gonna get started with our backfilling process. On the road again. For lunch today, we went to the grocery store and they have a special of breaded tenderloins. And to be completely honest, I'm tired of eating the grocery store special food. We've had it several times a week for months now. I'm just tired of it. So I actually ended up getting some little mini sweet peppers and baby carrots for my lunch. It's not gonna be very filling, but it's not gonna give me that ooh after I get done eating, which I like to have energy and I don't like the ooh. So that's what we're gonna be eating. We're hauling out corn or beans today?
Hauling out corn today. And it's icy out there, so you gotta be careful walking around the bins because sheets of ice keep sliding off. Sun's out, so get rid of it.
We also have a special treat. Roman's mom made this sauerkraut that I just spilled all over the table, and oh my goodness, it is delicious. Roman, do you think that your mom could sell these for $40 a jar?
Wouldn't be profitable.
More than $40 a jar?
Oh, 40. I said 4. Like.
No, 40.
Would you buy it for 40?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I'll bring you 10 of them.
Here we go. Lunch is over. Let's get this tarp off and then start backfilling. Goodbye, trash! Whoa! Tipped me over, Justin. Oh boy, we had a lot of wood down there. We are getting rid of the last of it now, and then we're gonna start bringing some rock in for our backfill process. This reminds me of when I was a little kid. We used to ride in the skid loader bucket up and down the driveway with Dad driving all the time. Now that we have everything all cleaned up, as we can see, we have a lot of overdig, meaning we dug way past the area where we were actually working. So that means we have a lot of backfill that needs to be done. I would guess about a quarter of that big dirt pile back there is just going to be for backfill alone. Now, as much as I would like to come in and just backfill everything all the way up to the top, we can't do that. We have to take a few steps. Step number one, we just got our dimple board installed, and the bottom part that drapes over the footing is just sitting here bare. We need to be careful with this edge right here because the last thing that we want to do is put a bunch of dirt on here that eventually silts its way underneath of our dimple board, because then it wouldn't work fully the way that it's supposed to. So our solution is to install a bit of a filter field. So we're going to be putting a foot of this nice clean rock over the top of our footing, so that way if silt and stuff gets into this, it will kind of get clogged up in this filter field first before it gets to our dimple board. Having this layer of rock also acts like a safety barrier. When we start backfilling from the big pile and start pushing in big piles of stuff, if we have a chunk of concrete or a big rock or something in there and that falls down in here, if we have this rock layer here, it's not going to hurt our dimple board at all. But if we just have a bare, open, exposed part of the dimple board, like right here, a rock or a piece of concrete could puncture a hole in this, which is what we don't want. So step number one of our backfill, we are going to be bringing in a foot of rock all the way around the entire underground movie theater. Once we get our rock layer built up, we are then going to be laying this non-woven geotextile fabric over the top. Now this stuff is pretty cool because it allows water to pass through it, but it does not allow silt, sand, or any other type of sediment to be able to pass through. So this is going to be an extra layer on our filtering screen. Adding this over the top is probably not necessary at all, but we have some extra laying around, so it's either it sits in the shed and does nothing, or we use it down here. So we're gonna be using it down here. When we have step number one done, we will have our dimple board down, we'll have our foot of rock, and then we'll have our layer of non-woven geotextile fabric. Once we get to there, then we'll be ready to start step number two, which is to bring in some dirt. Now we are not going to be going to the top, and if we look at our wall right now, our dimple board only goes up about 6 feet. So we are going to be covering about half of our dimple board with a layer of dirt. So there's gonna be about 3 feet of dirt on top of our rock. Backfilling the soil about halfway up our dimple board is going to serve one purpose. Well, technically two if we wanted to get super technical, but the main reason we want to do it is for insulation. When we put dirt up to here, it's gonna give us about 3 feet of insulating power from frost, because down below this we have a footing, and underneath that footing we potentially have some expansive soils. And expansive soils, when they freeze, they move a lot. If you've ever looked at a sidewalk or something that heaves up during the wintertime, or a garage floor, that's exactly what's going on, and we don't want that to happen underneath of our walls, because if the footing moves, the wall moves. If the wall moves, that is bad, and we don't want that to happen. But if we have 3 feet of dirt over the top of this, we'll be perfectly safe and we won't have to worry about anything freezing. Now we've been super fortunate this winter so far, where we only have like 8 inches of frost in the ground right now, and it's a light frost, and our footing is 18 inches deep, so it has not frozen under there yet. But wintertime is not over and things could change. So since we got this all wrapped up now and we can get it covered up, it's gonna be a really good feeling knowing that if we get negative 20 degrees for 2 weeks, we don't have to worry about anything freezing underneath of our footing. Now, technically speaking, the inside of the underground movie theater footings are still exposed, but we are almost to the step where we are ready to insulate in there. And then once we insulate, we won't have to worry about anything. The other thing that backfilling will technically do for us is protect our dimple board from UV rays. This is not supposed to sit out in the sun for a long time. So if we fill it up a little bit, then we don't have to worry about the bottom being exposed and getting brittle. But right now it is winter time and our sun's not super powerful, so I guess I'm not really terribly concerned with leaving this out for a few days. So I think we'll be just fine. But so that is something we technically get benefit out of by backfilling this up a little bit higher. Once we get to filling that up 3 feet with dirt, we will have to stop backfilling because we need to get our floor joist system in on the inside first before we can do any more, because the floor joists that are going to sit up on top of the walls, those hold everything together and it makes it nice and strong. And apparently you can blow out a wall or crack your walls if you don't have those in place first before you backfill. Now, as much rebar as we have inside of these walls and as thick as they are, I don't think that would happen. But from my understanding, that's what you are supposed to do. So we're not gonna risk it. We're just gonna stop right here. until we actually get our floor joists into place. Backfilling is going to have to continue tomorrow because we were supposed to have arm wrestling practice tonight, but I actually am going to a dinner with some friends. Once a year we meet up and we have our friendiversary dinner, and so tonight we have our 5-year friendiversary. So I am going to the big city of Des Moines. And then Justin and Roman are going to be quitting in about 5 minutes as well, because there is a property down the road that is for sale, and Roman sounds like he might be interested in it. So he's gonna go look at that, and then Justin, I believe, is going to go with him. Roman, how did the property look?
Look like it needs a lot of work, and still it's not big enough. I like the outside, all the buildings for goats, chickens, cow, horse, for all the tractors and combines, but the house, and it stunk. Marina couldn't even get in because they put all these smelly things in every single room.
Did you go, Justin?
No, I did not.
He was too busy.
I had to go look at a different project.
Man, look at Justin and Roman getting the non-woven geotextile fabric laid down. They have it all the way to the corner over there. Oh my goodness. And I think they have it all the way to the corner over here. Look at this. Oh yeah, we're ready to start putting some dirt back in. At RJ Construction, can you tell us what you specialize in?
Painting foundations, waterproofing foundations, rocking foundations,
Pouring foundations?
pouring foundations, anything foundation related. Anything foundation repair, replacement, install, we're #1 professionals.
Before we start moving some dirt, we need to grease up all of our equipment. And this grease gun is completely out of grease. Oh, come on. Maybe. Beautiful. In order for us to be able to get our dirt down in here, we need to dislodge some of our dirt pile. Now the problem with our dirt pile is it's been frozen for a little while. We don't have a lot of frost on it, but we do have some. So Roman just got the tiger tooth on the mini excavator, and this thing is designed to dig through frost, or at least to break it up. So we're gonna try to use this and see if we can chip away on our pile a little bit. And once we can get through the layer of frost that's on the top, everything underneath should be thawed out, and then we should be able to use that to be able to get things back filled in. Now we're gonna have to move kind of quick because all the stuff that's not thawed, as soon as we expose it to the air, that freezing cycle is going to start almost immediately. So we're gonna have to move fast. All right, let's see what this old tiger claw can do. Look at that, just ripping up this frost. Ooh, we found a rock down there. That's really cool. Now we originally bought this tiger claw because we also dig graves for 18 cemeteries on top of farming, and we get some during the winter time sometimes. And we have a special machine that can dig through frozen soil, but sometimes you just have a little bit of frost on top, and that machine, it doesn't do well with the mud. And usually when you have just a little bit of frost, there's a fair bit of mud underneath. And so we got this tiger claw, so hopefully we can just dig through those minimal frost conditions and then be able to dig with the bucket, and then we can handle the mud a lot better with the bucket than with the grave digger. We're doing a little change of plans. We were originally planning on digging on this side of our dirt pile because the soil that we have over here was the stuff that was in the very bottom of the underground movie theater, and this has more packing qualities to it. It's a stronger soil. When we get to that side of the pile, we start to get into a little bit more clay and topsoil, and that does not pack nearly as much as this. So we figured this would be better down low, but the only problem is we've been driving the skid loader through here a lot to get all of our dirt pushed way up on the pile, and so this is super packed, and the packed stuff is also super frozen. So we feel like the juice isn't worth the squeeze on sitting here forever trying to chunk this up, where over here we have a steeper wall and it's not packed, so it shouldn't take us nearly as long to be able to get to our thawed out soil over here. This whole process, running the tiger tooth, may not be the fastest thing in the world, but it's working. Roman's getting some really big chunks of frozen out of here. Like, look at this guy. That is the size of a small boulder, but he's pushing all the big chunks over on this side. Then I can come in and scoop these and put those on the other side of the pile. And then once he gets the big chunks off, everything underneath is just a nice, soft, damp soil, which honestly is perfect for packing, which is exactly what we want. Backfilling, everything is going pretty good. We have a lot of room in here to be able to turn around and maneuver the skid loader around, so this spot has not really been a problem. But now that we have our first lift through here, we're starting to make our way down this narrow part, which brings us to our first little challenge. How do we get the dirt from up there all the way down into here? And then number two, how do we get it down in here and get it packed? If our ground was thawed out, I would just be able to make a ramp with the skid loader, and then I'd be able to drive all the way down in here, and it wouldn't really be a problem filling in this area. But our ground is frozen, so we can't do that. So I'm gonna try something. This is our little skid loader, and I think it may just be the perfect size. Let's see if we can get this thing to start. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Come on, come on. It's cold, but it's not that cold. We should be able to get this thing to start. Skid loader hasn't been started for a couple months, and our battery, I think, is getting kind of tired. So I guess this brings us to plan C, which is just to use the excavator and kind of shove it down here, and then probably just use the excavator to also kind of pack as much as we can. Remember, we're just gonna be putting like 3 feet on the bottom here, so if we can't get it super packed with the excavator, it's not the end of the world, because we're gonna be able to get that smaller skid loader to start at some point, and I know we'll be able to fit that in here, and that will do a really good job of being able to pack out our bottom. gonna come over and grab our packer, but I just went to go check the engine oil, and when I undid the dipstick, it'll probably do it again here, but a whole bunch of oil came running out at the top of the dipstick. That should not be the case because we would have had it right up to the brim before, so nothing should be coming out. We should just be able to see it. So I stuck my finger in it, and it smells gasoline-y. Now on these small engines, they have a fuel shutoff on the side, so you can turn the gas on, you can turn the gas off. Now the gas is off on this, but I have a suspicion that the gas was left on the last time we used it for probably longer than what we should have had it. And this is a carbureted engine. So basically that's just a fancy way of saying there is a mechanical way of having the air and fuel mix, so that way it goes into the engine at the right ratio, so that way it runs right. And something in that carburetor is stuck open, so when we had our fuel on, it was just dumping fuel into the engine. And long story short, it's then able to get into the engine oil. So we have gasoline in the engine oil right now, which means that our engine oil is diluted and contaminated. So I can't run this until we change the engine oil in this, because we don't want to ruin the bearings in our engine, and we also don't want to ruin the walls of our cylinder or the rings of our cylinders. So I guess I'm not going to be using the packer today. We're above freezing now, so I'm just gonna try this skid loader one more time. And if it doesn't start, I might find some jumper cables and see if we can maybe give the battery a little boost. It should be plenty warm to start. Yeah, I think our battery's just a little low. Seems like the battery is either under your feet in here or under the seat. Under the seat would be easier to get to. Maybe. Nope, it's under our feet. Let's try this thing. Let's see what we can do. Fun fact, this has way more jumping power than a gasoline powered pickup. If you have a completely dead diesel, this will jump it, but that won't do anything. Oh, geez, we got a big old tarp here in the way. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. I think I can just go right off the hot of the starter, and then I just put the ground on the frame, and we should be able to jump it. Oh. It's got to kind of balance right here too. Oh! I know we got juice. That fired right up. After a couple hours, we have our first 3-foot mini lift almost completely done. Everything on this side has been packed down. This is looking pretty good. And everything on this side is just sitting in there nice and rough and fluffy. On this fluffy side, we'd really like to get in here with the equipment and be able to pack it down, but we don't have quite enough room to get around that corner to actually be able to get in here with these skid loaders. So for the time being, we're just getting the nice soft dirt on it, so that way we have the insulating properties of the soil, which is what we really need right now, because honestly, we can't get very close to the wall with our equipment, even on the areas that I have been able to pack. And along the wall is just as important as out here. So once we actually do the real full backfill, we will be getting probably a jumping jack or a little trench roller or something that we can actually butt right up next to the wall. So that way we can get this area, because I just cannot get close enough. I can get about that close, but then my track starts to about rub on these nails, and I don't want to accidentally rip the entire dimple board off of the wall. In the long run, this packing process is extremely important for two reasons. Reason number one, on this area behind me, we are going to have more house built above it, which means we are going to be pouring some concrete foundations, and we are going to be pouring concrete floors. If we just lay this in here nice and loose and we don't pack it well, when we go to pour our concrete, everything may be good for a little while, but once this starts to settle down below, then we'll get air pockets underneath of our concrete, and our concrete could crack or our concrete could settle, which we don't want either of those things. But if we have this packed appropriately, we won't have to worry about that. The other reason why packing our soil is so important is because when we have loose soil, that means we have a lot of air pockets in the soil. And when it rains, those air pockets fill up with water. So loose soil stays super mucky, wet, and saturated, which is exactly what we don't want right next to the house. We've been doing a whole bunch of stuff to the foundation wall to make sure things stay dry. And the last thing we want to do is just have a whole bunch of saturated soil sitting right next to that. Now this should still do its job, but if we can keep this soil out here from being super boggy and saturated, it's going to help that work so much better. So packed soil, since it gets rid of all the air pockets in between, is basically just all soil. So when it rains, the water basically just runs right off the top because it's hard and packed, or it finds channels and it just runs right down instead of just saturating into everything. A good example would be a washcloth. If you take it when it's nice and loose, just dunk it underwater, it's gonna hold a lot of water. Where if you wind it up like this, like you're wringing it out, you get all the water out of it. It's still a little damp, but there's not nearly as much. And if you keep it wound up like this and you dunk it back under the water and you pull it back out, there's still not very much water in it because you're getting rid of all those air pockets, where if you let it be loose and you dunk it, it gets full of water. So our soil works the exact same way. Now for our first 3-foot lift, we have this little spot left right here. And then if we run around all the way to the other side, we pretty much have the exact same thing over here. We have these spots left because they're the hardest to get into with the equipment, because we have to go around everything we have up top. And then on the other side, we have to go all the way around the house to get over there. So we just haven't quite got there yet. Our daylight has ran out on us quickly, but we have this little spot right here left. So it shouldn't take very long, maybe 10, 15 bucketfuls on this side. And then we're probably looking at about 30 on the other side. With it dropping below freezing now, our dirt pile is starting to harden up again. So I don't want to leave this. I just want to get everything completely done. So that way, if it freezes, we don't have to come back in here with the tiger tooth and re-rip things up again. So here we go. We're gonna try to do 40 buckets. how many buckets that was. It took me about 2 hours, but the good news is we now have everything covered and we should be safe from frost getting underneath of our footings. Once the weather thaws out and we are able to actually get down in there with the equipment and kind of shape the sides a little bit better with the excavator, then we'll be able to get in there and we'll be able to get our lifts packed right. But for now, we just wanted to make sure we were safe from the freezing. So I guess next step is, now that we got the outside done, we're gonna be hopping in on the inside and we are going to be getting ready for construction. But that's gonna be for another day because everybody left and it's dark outside. Plus I'm tired and hungry, so we're gonna call it a day here. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Energy, 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 energy. Let's get fired up! The main equipment repairing today is going to revolve around.
I will stab you with this.
Why would I let it go if you want to stab me?
I'm quitting. I quit. You're on your own for the rest of the week.
Missed the hole here.
Shut your face.
There, he's a man.
No. Just it's my example.
I do not care.
What?
Read my lips.
You said we were going to be done by noon.
Hey, don't talk to Iron Man like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna blast me?
How many times can you video the same guy putting the same product on the same hole?
Stop being so negative. People think you're nice.
Why aren't you doing it instead of holding that camera?
Because I'm a cameraman.
Not true. Get out of here.
There's our hydraulic oil. Wait, no, that's antifreeze.
By the looks of this, the top has to go south that much.
Say that again, Justin, but just loud.
It looks to me like the top has to go south that much.
You said it again, but it was more.
It looks to me like the top has to go south that much. That board gets tight.
Good, that makes sense.
Can you do it with a little less anger?
Turnbuckle. You
recognize this?
What? Get that out of my face.
See, you would think everyone is working hard, but it's not the case. And then, on top of that, he made a scarecrow that we would think it's him.
Really?
Yeah, he made a scarecrow.
Hey, Justin, what color is this wall?
Black.
By the way, if you didn't know, Justin is so colorblind, he sees everything in black and white.
Was I nice before?
You were nice before lunch, and now all of a sudden you're jerk. Maybe you should
Been
have
nice to me.
more sprinkles on your ice cream, I guess. Get out of here. I just had a sub. You're gonna get You're gonna get ham puke on you. Get out of here. Go.
No,
Vámonos. Vámonos.